I had to grow up when I was 6. I had 2 little brothers that depended on me. Liam was 2 and John was just a baby. Our parents were going through a nasty divorce. And suddenly the children were just a burden that neither wanted to tend to. I was the one who made sure we ate, bathed, wore clean clothes, changed diapers, and taught the boys how to pee in the potty when it came time for that. I also stopped believing in Santa, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, sugar plums and gumdrops. Which meant I also didn't believe in anything that went bump in the night. I couldn't believe in those things. I had to be the grown-up. I had to be Santa, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and I had to chase away the things that went bump in the night. My brothers were terrified of the dark, and the things that lived under the bed and in the closet. So every night before bed, I would take a brown paper lunch bag and chase away the things from under the bed and the closet. I'd catch them in my bag, and then I'd stomp on the bag, thus killing the monsters, with lots of praise from the boys. We all slept in the same bed. It was easier that way. I knew where they were at all times. Things stayed that way as we grew up. The boys knew they could count on me above our parents anytime they needed something. Even after the divorce, the neglect never stopped. We sort of fended for ourselves. When I graduated high school, things started to change for me. I started to become angry at the way my life was. I resented my parents. And I hate to admit it, but I started to resent the boys, even though none of it was their fault. So I ran away. I ran away with a boy my age who had joined the Marines. Our life together started in Florida and ended in North Carolina. The boy was secretly an abusive drug addict. I came home broken. That's when I met my husband Tim, who was different from anything I had ever encountered. He was kind, gentle, and worked hard to make sure I knew that I was loved, which was a feeling I never knew before. I had 2 children with him, 2 girls, Gina and Melanie. That's when the nightmare started. That is when I started to believe in the things that went bump in the night. I didn't know if what I had been through made me feel and know things that previously I thought didn't exist. But after Gina was born, I started having horrible nightmares. The nightmares were so vivid they would put Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street to shame. Then, the day after the nightmare, I would see the subject of the nightmare out and about, as if I were being stalked. Normally, the nightmare was of a man in all black, choking me. His hands, gloved, wrapped tightly around my neck. My husband normally woke me from these dreams. I screamed out, I fought, I kicked and punched. I woke with cold sweats. But the next day out in town, I'd catch a glimpse of him here or there. Over the years, I thought it was just coincidence, that there must have been someone in town who wore a black jacket like the man in my dreams. It wasn't until the man started being literally everywhere I was that I started to worry. One hot summer's day at the farmer's market, I saw him. The man in black. I saw him across the marketplace briefly. It startled me so that I dropped my basket. I quickly retrieved my belongings and looked again, but he was gone. It had to be that man. Why would a man be wearing a black leather jacket in 90-degree heat? That night, I had the nightmare again. Same man in black with his hands around my throat. I scratched his face under his right eye. The man yelled a curse and bit me on my left shoulder. My husband woke me again. We turned the light on, and he ran to get water while I caught my breath. He came into the room and looked at me and said, "Baby, you're bleeding." I was confused, but he ran up to me and put pressure on my left shoulder. Once the bleeding had stopped, we were able to see what the cause of it was. I had a deep bite mark on my shoulder. I broke down and told my husband of my dream. How could something that happened in a dream appear suddenly on my body? I could understand a random bruise, since I tend to wrestle the air, but a physical bite mark was unexplainable. I called my best friend in the morning, and Shauna and I agreed that I could use some time away from the house. Shauna and I went to the mall to walk around and people watch. People watching was a fun pastime of ours. We quite enjoyed picking out morons at the mall and secretly laughing at them. It always made me feel better. While we were people watching, I saw him again. He looked right at me, and he had scratches underneath his right eye. We stared at each other for a moment before he turned to leave. He was leaving Hot Topic and heading towards JCPenney's. I needed to know what he was, and why he was everywhere I was, and why he was in my head. I tried getting to him, but a gaggle of teenage girls suddenly burst out of Claire's in front of me, and he was gone again. I didn't know what to do. This was getting very real. Why would he have the scratches? Why did I have the bite mark? I needed help. Shauna, who is also a clairvoyant, told me I needed to speak to my mother. I asked her why, but she said all she knew was that she was getting a strong feeling and I needed to talk to my mother, and that was all she knew. I hadn't spoken to my mother in 15 years. As soon as I graduated high school, I left and never looked back. But I trusted Shauna. I knew if Shauna said I needed to do something, I needed to do it. So I called my mother. "Hello? Is this Donna?" "Yes. Who is this?" "Elizabeth, your daughter?" "That's impossible. My daughter's dead." "No, I'm not. I'm alive and well. I am married and have 2 children, and I need to speak to you." My mum sighed heavily on the other end of the line. "I thought you were dead, and that is why it had ended, not because you had children." "What are you talking about?" I said. "You are being stalked by a man in black, aren't you?" I stayed silent for a minute or two, before my mum went into the story of the man in black. Apparently, he is a curse. He has been haunting women in my family for generations. However, the reason for the curse was no longer known. He will follow and haunt the mother until the next daughter has children, or the next daughter is dead. This is the reason for my parents' divorce. This is the reason my mother was distant while we were growing up. She didn't want to get close to me. She harbored homicidal thoughts towards me my entire life to end the curse that was upon her. She hated herself for it, so she didn't want a relationship with me. There is no other way to break the curse. When I asked my mother how she survived the curse without a spouse to wake her from her nightmares, she told me she had her alarm go off hourly. It took a toll on her, but at least the man in black couldn't claim another victim. I knew what I had to do. The man in black is after blood. He will not stop until he takes a female of my bloodline. He will continue to torture us until that day. So that night, I bought a bottle of sleeping pills and crushed 3 or 4 up into Tim's tea, being careful not to give him a lethal amount, just enough to keep him asleep when the man in black comes. I tucked my daughters into bed and kissed them one last time, and then I went to sleep myself. The man in black came as predicted. He took my life as predicted. My cause of death went down to undiagnosed sleep apnea. I watch over my family now. Their sadness keeps me here. It's odd. I thought I'd be tethered to the man in black for all of eternity, but once he took me, I never saw him again. At least I am free of him. 23 years later, Gina had a baby. She had a baby girl, and now the man in black is back. He is haunting my daughter. There is no way to break the curse, and my curse is to watch it happen to my family for generations to come. Hello everyone, and this was day 30 of Shaf-Tober. One more day left till the end of Shaf-Tober, and I hope you guys are excited for tomorrow's video. As always, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And, as always, stay sinister.